John Denver was the voice of American innocence. With a guitar slung over his shoulder and a smile that could calm the world, he sang about sunshine, mountains, and the simple beauty of life. Songs like Take Me Home, Country Roads, Annie's Song, and Rocky Mountain High became national anthems of comfort and nostalgia. He was a man who radiated peace, harmony, and sincerity. At least, that's what the world wanted to believe. But behind those tender ballads and boyish charm was a man battling demons the public never truly saw. And when he died in a tragic plane crash in 1997, it seemed like a cruel twist of fate. But now, decades later, pieces of a much darker puzzle are finally falling into place. And the truth, it's not pretty at all. To the outside world, John Denver was wholesome, a symbol of kindness, a nature-loving, gentle folk singer who avoided the drama of rock and roll. But those who knew him best paint a far more complicated picture. Denver's personal life was marked by volatility, emotional outbursts, and secrets he worked hard to keep buried. His first marriage to Annie Martell, immortalized in Annie's Song, ended in heartbreak. And while fans believe they had simply grown apart, court documents and private interviews suggest otherwise. Denver struggled with jealousy, control issues, and emotional distance. Friends recall how his need to be adored by the public often came at the expense of his closest relationships. By the 1980s, his image as a clean-cut star began to unravel. Denver battled alcohol addiction, a struggle he mostly kept out of the public eye. In private, he was arrested for driving under the influence on more than one occasion. His license was suspended. His behavior became erratic. Those close to him whispered that he was unraveling emotionally and mentally. And while he continued to perform, write, and advocate for environmental causes, his personal life was slowly falling apart. The most alarming part of Denver's story came not just from his troubled relationships or addiction battles, but from what he kept hidden. Aviation was John's second passion. He owned multiple small aircraft and spoke about flying with the same poetic reverence as he did about music. But insiders reveal that Denver had a reckless side when it came to piloting. Friends say he would sometimes fly in questionable conditions, against recommendations, and with a stubbornness that worried even seasoned pilots. His license had even been revoked at one point due to his prior DUI arrests, yet he found ways around the restrictions. When he got into that experimental plane on October 12, 1997, it was not his first risky flight, but it was his last. The crash stunned the world. A sunny afternoon, a beautiful coastline, and in seconds, he was gone. But what investigators later revealed made the tragedy even more chilling. The aircraft Denver was piloting had been known to have fuel selector issues, a design flaw that placed the fuel switch in an awkward position, requiring the pilot to turn in their seat to reach it. Denver, likely trying to switch tanks mid-flight, lost control. The plane spiraled down into the Pacific Ocean. He died instantly, but that's not the whole story. The National Transportation Safety Board (NTSB) revealed that Denver hadn't received proper instruction on that particular aircraft. The builder of the plane had advised against flying it without practice. Denver had dismissed concerns. He had also taken off without enough fuel in one tank and had failed to refill before the flight. To many in the aviation world, his death wasn't just tragic, it was preventable. And worse, it was the result of arrogance. A fatal decision fueled not by malice, but by ego. And yet, that's not where the mystery ends. In the years following his death, family members and longtime associates began to open up, revealing a man torn between two worlds. There was the public John Denver, kind, poetic, beloved. And then there was the private John, controlling, sometimes manipulative, and increasingly unstable. Some say his fame had become a prison. That behind his environmental activism and television specials was a man who couldn't find peace with himself. His need to be perfect, to embody a persona that fans worshipped, eventually fractured his identity. His second marriage to Cassandra Delaney, an Australian actress, also ended in divorce. In interviews, she revealed emotional tension, possessiveness, and a profound inability to connect on a personal level. Though Denver adored his children, his relationships were strained. There was always a disconnect between his image and his reality. He was a man who wrote about sunshine but often lived in shadows. Even Denver's activism, while inspiring, was not without controversy. He clashed with government agencies, corporations, and even fellow environmentalists. He became disillusioned with the music industry frustrated that his deeper, more politically charged songs were ignored in favor of his early hits. As grunge, hip-hop, and darker rock rose in popularity, Denver's folk pop brand was increasingly seen as outdated. He fought to stay relevant, but behind the scenes, he felt discarded. So when people say, John Denver died too soon, they're not wrong. But perhaps what they really mean is, we never got closure. The mystery wasn't just how he died, it was who he had become. He was an icon who couldn't live up to his image. A man adored by millions, but emotionally adrift. A poet of peace who struggled to find any in his own life, and maybe that's what makes this story so painful, because we wanted him to be more than a man. We wanted him to be hope, joy, purity. But he was flawed. He was human. And in the end, it wasn't just an experimental plane or a risky maneuver that killed him. It was a lifetime of trying to be something more than real. And it broke him. Now, as we look back, the mystery isn't as glamorous or noble as fans may have hoped. It's raw. It's messy. It's deeply human. John Denver's death wasn't just the end of a life, it was the collapse of a carefully constructed illusion. And for the first time, we're finally seeing the man behind the myth. It's not pretty, but it's the truth. Subscribe to Hollywood Untold for more emotional stories behind music legends and the feuds that shaped rock history. Tap the bell to never miss a beat.